Hotapu everyone. This is His Majesty Ra Sumabafagbemi, the world's first openly African black gay pharaoh. And the role of a pharaoh is to nourish and protect his people. And today I wish to do so by discussing with you a bit of fractal math, a bit of visual geometric astronomy, which reveals why the Africans of the Nile Valley of ancient Egypt described the eyes of Ra as the sun and the moon here. So they said the sun and the moon were, in particular, the eyes of Ra, where the moon was Ra's left eye and the sun his right. It was the sun and moon in particular, and most specifically, that were referred to as eyes. The reason would be to study the geometric motion of the moon to the sun to see why they were called eyes. So I'm going to pull up now a software which is an image of what's called rectangular coordinates system of the geocentric perspective of the moon's movement around the sun. So standing from the earth, watching how the sun, how the moon moves around the sun, and at certain intervals of this motion around the sun, drawing lines between the sun and the moon, these striations you're seeing would be simply lines that connect the vectors of certain moments of the moon's movement around the sun, and you repeat that equation, you iterate it, what's called iteration in fractals, over and over and over. And if you watch that pattern, if you let that run certain thousands of times, you get images. So for example, let's start with this one again. I'm going to reboot this image. And again, this is a geometric patterning of the astronomical motions of the moon around the sun from the Earth's perspective. I'm letting it run. Okay. We're now running up to 40,000 repeats or iterations, but you see the pattern deepens, deepens, and deepens and repeats itself. But notice it looks like an iris of an eye. You have the pupil inside here, and you have the eye striations. Only the sun and moon's motions, only their rectangular coordinates create this pattern. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's cease this processing. I'm going to try two other planets. Let's do the sun and Mars. Okay, here's what they look like in their motion, drawn by a computer. This is a very different pattern, you see? It does not resemble at all an eye. Okay, it's a beautiful pattern, a fascinating pattern, but Herokohuti Mars was not called the Eye of Ra. Let's try another one. Let's see if some other combinations of planets make eye images. Let's try Venus and Mars. Okay, let's repeat these. Let's do maybe 4,000 iterations. Let's calculate. Okay, and let's see what happens. 4500. It seems to, okay, let's try another. There we go. It takes a minute sometimes. There we go. So this is the shape. These are the shapes traced in the sky between the motions of Mars and Venus. Beautiful indeed, fascinating, no doubt, but not an eye. Okay, let's try a few more just to show you how wise the Kamal were. Let's do the Sun and Saturn. This is Saturn's motion around the Sun from the Earth's point of view, which resembles a kind of crown of some sort. Okay, we'll do two more. Let's try the sun and let's try the sun. Let's try Mercury and Venus here. It makes this kind of fanning pattern. Okay, now remember these images are not drawn. It's an equation put into the computer, tracing the actual motions of the planets from the Earth's point of view, and then I repeat this so many thousands of times. This image on the screen is 1,500 repetitions or iterations. I can put into my calculation here, I can do, let's try 20,000 iterations, and we'll let it run. It's repeating once a day, 20,000 times. And you see as we repeat this equation, this fractal equation, we get beautiful images that we weren't expecting. That's why it's fractal. Surprising, this kind of five-pointed figure, this webbing. It's very beautiful how the Supreme Being paints, we could say. Okay? But again, this does not resemble at all an eye. It's closer, but not quite. The only one that does so, let's do it again, would be the sun and moon. There you go. You see it's an actual iris with a pupil in the middle. Okay, so this is the reason why the Kamal said specifically of the sun and moon, they are the eyes of Ra, because of their rectangular coordinates create an actual pupil pattern in their motions. The eye here being drawn, we're going at 40,000 iterations or repetitions, and we see the pupil keeps showing itself and the iris darkening. And that is how we have the eyes of the sun and moon. I pray you enjoyed this bit of mathematical fun of African astronomy, African mythology, and African science. Remember, no matter what happens in your life, always look up. Why? Because you are a star. Dua Wend Hotepu.